Okay, we're back with Proclus's commentary on the Timaeus. Still looking into the nature of the demiurge and if he looks to a created or eternal paradigm and the different senses of that. Of course, he's going to look to something prior to himself if he's doing what is good for him in looking to that paradigm. If he's looking to something inferior to himself, then he's not doing the best thing for himself. But we'll just pick up right here. Very properly, therefore, does Plato now say that the demiurge looked to the paradigm in order that, becoming all things through the intellectual perception of it, he may give subsistence to the sensible world. For the paradigm was the universe intelligibly, but the demiurge intellectually, and the world sensibly. So, in some sense, the universe is intelligibly the form of animal itself, which is also the Greek god, later Greek god, starts with a P.
Fannies?
Phanes, yeah, thank you. So Phanes, paradigmatically, intelligibly, the demiurge intellectually, and the cosmos as we see it sensibly. Hence also the theologist says, "For in his sacred heart he these concealed, and into joyful light again revealed." That the world, therefore, was generated according to a paradigm, was what this paradigm is, after what manner it is above, and how it is in the demiurgic intellect, is manifest through what has been said. Some, however, doubt why Plato inquires whether the world was fabricated according to that which is generated, or according to that which is intelligible, for there is not any other generated nature in order that the universe might be fabricated with relation to it. If, therefore, the inquiry had been concerning Socrates or any other partial nature, the question, say they, would have been reasonable. But as the inquiry is concerning the universe, is it not impossible it should have been constituted with relation to that which is generated? Because there's nothing generated but the universe itself. For what other generated nature is there besides the universe? We may dissolve this doubt, however, by recollecting what has been frequently said, that Plato calls soul generated so far as it participates of time. But the inquiry here is, what is the paradigm of the universe, whether it is soul, or intellect, or the intelligible? For these are the only things that are eternal. And on this account he asks whether the world was generated with relation to a generated or an eternal nature. After this manner, as it has appeared to some, the doubt may be solved. May it not, however, be possible to solve it by another more perfect method, through which it will also be evident that the confused and disorderly nature prior to the world must not be said, as Atticus and Plutarch thought it must, to be unbegotten. Okay. For if nothing was generated prior to the universe, it was ridiculous to inquire whether the world was generated with relation to perpetual being, or to that which is generated. Okay. This, however, is now investigated. Prior to the world, therefore, there was a certain generated nature, that confused and disorderly nature, the indefinite quantum, in the language of Simplicius. Prior to the world, therefore, there was a certain generated nature, and since it was neither perpetual being nor place, for three things, as Plato says, were prior to the generation of the universe, viz., being, place, and generation, it is evident that the so much celebrated confused and disorderly nature was a thing of this kind, generation. Okay, so because that confused and disorderly nature was there prior to the cosmos, then the cosmos could be said to be made in the image of some generated nature. So the prior resolution of the doubt was that he's using generation sensu lato to include soul, and we were investigating whether the paradigm is a soul entity or an intelligible entity above or below the demiurge. And now we can say, well, there is the question of whether the universe could have been made according to the paradigm of the confused and disorderly nature, which was generated and prior to the universe. Hence, and we actually did go through this. I'm not sure how far back we're backtracking, but I think it's fine because we could use the refresher. We didn't have our group last week. Hence, not the universe only, but that which was moved in a confused and disorderly manner was generated, as we have said, and had a prior subsistence. The world, therefore, possessing this confused nature as matter, but the intelligible pre-existing as more excellent, whether was the universe assimilated to the material nature which it contains, or to that which is essentially more divine. For being a medium between the two, it is necessarily assimilated to one of the extremes. And just the Aristotelian argument that of all opposites, one is the superior and one the inferior. So if you're in between two opposites, one is the superior, and superior is always judged according to potency or power. So you're going to come from one or the other of two extremes, or you will necessarily be assimilated to one or the other of the two extremes. For it is supposed that the demiurge assumed that disorderly nature and perceives animal itself, so that Plato very properly inquires to which of these the demiurge assimilates the universe, whether to that which he assumes or to that which he sees. Okay, so he assumed disorderly nature and perceives animal itself. I wonder what the Greek term for assumed there is. Be interesting to remember, but okay. To these things, therefore, that which follows is conformable, viz., that the world being beautiful, it was assimilated to the intelligible, and not to that which was moved in a confused and disorderly manner. For that which is assimilated to this is deformed. Some of the interpreters, however, say that Plato, this interpretation also, this resolution to the doubt seems to be Proclus's own, although we've seen in Heath's commentary on or his introduction to the elements, talking about Proclus's commentary on Euclid, that sometimes Proclus will just repeat an existing commentator without credit. And that is a problem with some of these ancient authors. They're not always real clear where an idea comes from. Um, the way he expressed the opinion, it sounded, though, like Proclus said, well, here's the conventional resolution of this doubt, but here's an even better resolution of the doubt. And it seems like it was his own. But some of the interpreters, however, say that Plato does not inquire concerning the demiurge according to which of the paradigms he made the world, but that he asks as with reference to us who know that there are two paradigms, with relation to which of these the universe was generated. Okay. With reference to us who know that there are twofold paradigms. Okay. And this assertion is after a certain manner reasonable. For we are those who look to both these paradigms, and not the demiurge. So he's not contemplating something pertinent to the demiurge in himself, but he's saying, like, he asks the question because, well, humans deal with twofold paradigms. And I assume he means that, there are eternal paradigms from our perspective, and then there are generated paradigms, just like a blueprint is a generated thing and yet is a paradigm for a house. For we are those who look to both these paradigms, and not the demiurge. For it is not lawful for him to look to that which is less excellent, but we, perceiving the natures which are prior, and also those which are posterior to him, interrogate ourselves, in which of them it is fit to place the paradigm. But others say that Plato adduces that which is generated for the sake of a perfect division, in order that he may not appear to prevent the object of investigation whether the mundane paradigm is eternal. For supposing the paradigm to be generated, he shows that a certain absurdity will follow. Others again say that since of sensibles some are preternatural, but others according to nature, and of these some have the images of certain generated natures, but others are the similitudes of them. Hence, Plato, wishing to demonstrate that the world was generated with relation to an eternal paradigm, makes a subversion of the others, on account of the universe being most beautiful. For that which is most beautiful is neither preternatural, nor is derived from a generated paradigmatic essence, since that which is derived from this is not most beautiful. But because, in short, the universe is beautiful, it is not preternatural. Such, therefore, is the solution of the doubt. Okay. It is worthwhile, however, concisely to survey the accuracy of the words. For the words, again, and must be considered, indicate the order of the problem, viz., that it is in continuity with the things which precede it, and that this immediately follows those speculations. Okay. Again, continuity of things preceding it, and that this immediately follows those speculations must be considered. But the words respecting him collect all the investigations and refer them to the one theory about the world, for what is said about the demiurge and the paradigm is assumed for the sake of the theory of the universe. The words, according to which of the paradigms, separate as extremes and as different from each other the intelligible and that which is generated, the former existing among the first, but the latter among the last of beings. But the word artificer exhibits the production of form by its cause, and demiurgic art proceeding into the world. For as the theologist says, the first manual artificers gave to Jupiter the demiurgic power of all the mundane production. For as the theologist says, the first manual artificers gave to Jupiter the demiurgic powers of all the mundane production. Okay. As the theologist, being the Chaldean oracle authors Julian and his son. So, and who thunder and the lightning formed for Jove, Vulcan and Pallas, the first artists, taught Jove all the daedal arts the world contains. Okay, so I see. The first manual artificers being Hephaestus and Athena, they gave to Jupiter all the demiurgic powers, which is interesting because they're inferior to him. But so I'm not sure exactly what the meaning is here. Plato, therefore, following what the theologist here asserts, continually uses the words tektenominos and etekdeman, etekdemato, which signify fabricative energy, when speaking of the demiurgic production. But the words, according to that which subsists with invariable sameness, indicate the eternal paradigm of the universe, which is the first of eternal natures and is established at the end of the first intelligibles. Right, we saw that Phanes would be the end of the being phase, or first intelligibles. I don't know if we got more specific than that. So, of course, the demiurge is the last triad of the last third. It's the last third of the last third of the second hypostasis, and then the paradigm to equate with it needs to be the last third of the first third of the second hypostasis. I'm pretty sure. So what I'm saying, being, life, intellect as a whole, second hypostasis. So demiurge is intellect of intellect, and then the paradigm would be the intellect of being. The relatively speaking, the intellect of the intelligibles. And I'm sort of losing the thread here. Let's go forward a little bit and then back up if we have to. And again, that which was generated signifies that which was moved in a confused and disorderly manner. For this is a composite, is much mingled, and altermotive, or moved by another, all which are the elements of a generated nature. He does not therefore say that this disorderly nature is unbegotten and incorruptible, and that the world is generated and corruptible, but that the former of these was generated as being altermotive and commingled. For Plato clearly says that prior to the generation of the universe, there were these three things: place, generation, and being. And it is evident that by generation he means the confused and disorderly nature. Generation, therefore, is this, and the world is unbegotten according to temporal generation. Hence, these things are more concordant with Plato and with our unperverted opinions about the universe. We could probably move on, or I could back up and just kind of reread these previous two paragraphs where he starts examining the language more closely, because it got a little bit confusing. I will do that, in fact. All right, so it is worthwhile, however, concisely to survey the accuracy of the words, for the words, again, and must be considered indicate the order of the problem, viz., that it is in continuity with the things which precede it, and that this immediately follows those speculations. But the words respecting him collect all the investigations and refer them to the one theory about the world, for what is said about the demiurge and the paradigm is assumed for the sake of the theory of the universe. The words according to which of the paradigms separate as extremes and as differing from each other the intelligible and that which is generated, the former existing on the first, but the latter among the last of beings. But the word artificer exhibits the production of form by its cause, and demiurgic art proceeding into the world. For as the theologist says, the first manual artificers gave to Jupiter the demiurgic powers of all the mundane production. And I guess we could interpret that as, like, obviously they are secondary to the demiurge, and yet they engage in the, like, proliferated and lower degree manual production demiurgic craft, and then when they revert back to Zeus, then Jupiter kind of gains. I guess you can look at it as like an abiding, proceeding, reverting cycle idea. So at some level, the demiurge abidingly contains, in an intellectual way, all of these mundane crafts, and then the lower powers proliferate that and then revert back to their cause, kind of giving to Zeus, by extension, all of their powers. And who thunder and the lightning formed for Jove, Vulcan and Pallas, the first artists, taught Jove all the datal arts the world contains. Plato, therefore, following what the theologist here asserts, continually uses the words tetenamenos and etekdenato, which signify fabricative energy, when speaking of the demiurgic production. But the words according to that which subsists with invariable sameness indicate the eternal paradigm of the universe, which is the first of eternal natures, and is established at the end of the first intelligibles. Okay. He calls that the first of eternal natures. I don't know if he said exactly that yet. Of course, eternity will be prior to an eternal nature. Eternity will be, I think, posterior to being itself. It's one of the entities in the first third of the second hypostasis, I would say. But the paradigm is said to be the first of eternal natures, which would mean it would be like the first participant in eternity, presumably. So maybe eternity is a little bit later down the chain, but just something to remember, Phanes is the paradigm for the world. The intelligible animal is the first of eternal natures and is established at the end of the first intelligibles. And again, that which was generated signifies that which was moved in a confused and disorderly manner. For this is a composite, is much mingled, and ultramotive, or moved by another, all which are the elements of a generated nature. So being a composite and much mingled doesn't seem super consistent with what Simplicius says about the indefinite quantum, because the indefinite quantum, it is a hylomorphic compound. It's form in matter in its simplest way, and then the simplest form that can instantiate uh, is going to be quantity, but not any definite quantity, just the indefinite trace of quantity. That's why it's an indefinite quantum that is the simplest form that can instantiate. But is that a composite, and is that much mingled? Well, I mean, by not distinguishing, there can be multiple senses in which something is mingled, I suppose, either a mixture or an undifferentiated uh, containing the possibilities in either direction. So it's neither large nor small. It's, no one of the definite quantities. So in that sense, it could be much mingled. Just trying to see if it is an appropriate correlation, the indefinite quantum concept, and then the um, that which was moved in a confused and disorderly manner concept. I can see how they can still be reconciled, but maybe we should actually have distinct ideas of those two. I'm still leaning towards they are one and the same thing, though. He does not therefore say that this disorderly nature is unbegotten and incorruptible, and that the world is generated and corruptible, but that the former of these was generated as being ultramotive and commingled. For Plato clearly says that prior to the generation of the universe, there were these three things: place, generation, and being. And it is evident that by generation he means the confused and disorderly nature. Generation, therefore, is this, and the world is unbegotten according to temporal generation. Hence, these things are more concordant with Plato and with our unperverted opinions about the universe. Okay. Next lemma. Indeed, if this world is beautiful, and the demiurge of it is good, it is evident that he looked to an eternal paradigm. But if he is not good, which it is not lawful for anyone to assert, he looked to that which was generated. Proclus. In the first place, it is requisite that we should understand the logical method of Plato in order that we may see how demonstratively it proceeds. For from the hypotheses, he had these twofold axioms: that what is generated according to an eternal paradigm is beautiful, and that what is generated according to a generated paradigm is not beautiful. The converse, however, to these are that what is beautiful was generated according to an eternal paradigm, but what is not beautiful was not generated according to an eternal paradigm. For if to the opposite of that which precedes, the opposite of that which is consequent follows, then these reciprocate with each other, and that which was proposed from the beginning is demonstrated through a deduction to an impossibility. For if to the opposite of that which precedes, the opposite of that which is consequent follows, then they're reciprocal. So if A, then B, if not A, then not B, then if B, then A. So that's a principle of when B and A are reciprocal properties. The condition when, if to the opposite of that which precedes, the opposite of that which is consequent follows, then these reciprocate with each other. Okay, interesting. So I guess the general rule would be if A, then B, and if not A, then not B, then if B, then A. I mean, I feel like it's modus ponens and modus tollens involved there, but keep going. For if that which is beautiful was generated according to a generated paradigm, but that which is so generated is not beautiful through one of the axioms, then it will follow that what is not beautiful is beautiful. Why, therefore, did not Plato immediately in the hypotheses assume these axioms, viz., that what is beautiful was generated according to eternal paradigm, what is not beautiful was not so generated, but those to which these are the converse, though he intended to use the former and not the latter in his demonstration? Why not just assume, the simpler statement that implied immediately the conclusion? In answer to this, it must be said that the latter, which commence from causes, are more adapted to hypotheses, but the former, which are derived from things caused, are more allied to things posterior to hypotheses. For when he says, that which was generated according to an eternal paradigm is beautiful, he begins from causes, but ends in that which is caused. Right. So you move from its cause, it is generated from an eternal paradigm, therefore it is beautiful. You don't want to go from the effect, it is beautiful when it has been caused by X. But when vice versa, he says, that is beautiful, which was generated according to an eternal paradigm, he makes the beautiful to be precedenious, but the cause consequent. He employs, therefore, the former of these in order that he may assume things adapted to principles and causes in the hypotheses, but he employs the latter, which is the converse of the former, in the demonstrations, selecting that which is appropriate to the things demonstrated. Hence, laying down these four axioms, he very properly inquires concerning the universe whether it is beautiful or is not beautiful. But if indeed the world is beautiful, it was generated according to an eternal paradigm, but if it is not beautiful, according to a generated paradigm. That the world, however, is beautiful is evident from sense. It was therefore generated according to an eternal paradigm. Since, however, beauty is imparted to the world from the paradigm, through the demiurgic cause as a medium, in the proposition which precedes, for the purpose of showing that the world is beautiful, he assumes that the demiurge is good. For every artificer who is a good artist has dominion over his proper matter, and superinduces the form which he wishes on the subjects of his art. And this is accomplished in a much greater degree by the whole demiurge, who also gives subsistence to nature, the universal subject of things, as other assertions evince, and who produces it, so he doesn't only shape matter, but produces the universal subject, nature itself, and who produces, as other assertions evince, and who produced it, that it might cooperate with him in receiving the world and fabrication from him. Right, just the same thought, not just shaping existing things, but producing the substrate that then he himself, that is adapted to be shaped by himself. Since, however, he had added this in the second proposition, he passes over the opposite in silence. For the defamation of the world is atrocious, since it is most beautiful, and a blessed God, but the defamation of the demiurge is still more so. Hence Plato employs Themis as a guard to what he says. Footnote 2, for Plato uses the word Themis or lawful in this place. Okay, Themis, I guess, is a deity as well. So he's not just making a kind of statement, a universal claim that it is lawful that you should say this or that, but he is also invoking a deity to safeguard, I guess, himself from blasphemy, really. Hence, Plato employs Themis as a guard to what he says, who collects the gods themselves to the demiurge, and does not suffer them to be divulged from the goodness of the Father. So Themis' law is an attendant of Zeus. I think that's even there in the myth of right? But all right. He does this in order that through Themis, he may not ascribe anything disorderly or defamatory to the demiurge. The propositions, therefore, being such, and receiving their beginning from the dividing art, let us see what Plato afterwards adds. Next lemma. It is, however, manifest to everyone that he looked to an eternal paradigm, for the world indeed is the most beautiful of generated natures, and the demiurge is the best of causes. But being thus generated, it is fabricated according to that which may be apprehended by reason and intelligence, and which subsists invariably the same. Okay. Proclus. Through what is here said, in the first place, he antecedently assumes the conclusion, as he is accustomed to do, deriving the principles of his demonstrations from intellect. In the next place, he introduces the recollection of the assumption and afterwards adds the rest. For the words, "It is, however, manifest to everyone that he looked to an eternal paradigm," are the conclusion, but the words, "For the world indeed is the most beautiful of generated natures, and the demiurge is the best of causes," are a narration of the assumption, as the causal conjunction "men" indeed manifests. And the rest is the conclusion of all that is said. Such, therefore, is the logical arrangement of the words. But again, betaking ourselves to the theory of the things, let us in the first place see through what cause he transfers the word beautiful to the word most beautiful, and good to the best. In the next place, let us survey how these things are true, and what kind of order they have with reference to each other. That a beautiful fabrication, therefore, was fabricated according to an eternal paradigm is evident, as was before asserted. For whence could it obtain the beautiful except from the imitation of this paradigm? If, however, this is most beautiful, that accords well with what I think Olympiodorus in his commentary on the Gorgias says about the nature of beauty and form. Beauty is, in some sense, simply the preponderance of form over matter, and form comes from the intelligibles, and so the only place to get beauty is from an intelligible paradigm. If, however, this is most beautiful, the fabrication was not simply made according to an eternal paradigm, but if it be requisite to say so, it was assimilated to the most eternal of eternal natures. Okay, so if it's most beautiful, then it has to be the principal eternal nature, the intelligible animal, which raises the question where exactly eternity lies, and then there would be a class of forms or a class of intelligible things that are not, that themselves would be prior to eternity. So being is prior to eternity, that's clear. But then where is eternity such that the intelligible animal, which is the so-called intellect of the intelligibles, is the first participant of eternity? For every image which more clearly participates of form is the image of a purer paradigm. Okay. And as of the statues produced by the Tallistic art, so he's talking about idols, some partaking of the presence of a divine nature more obscurely enjoy the second and third powers of the divinity, but others, participating of it more clearly, partake also of the first and highest powers of the god. After the same manner, likewise, the God who gives perfection to the world has rendered it most beautiful as an image of the first of eternal natures. For that which is most beautiful is derived to the world from thence, and is extended to a similitude towards it through its own beauty. Again, therefore, if the demiurgic cause is good, he looked to that which is eternal, and not to that which is generated, lest by looking to that which is less excellent, which it is not lawful to assert, he should fall off from goodness. If, however, this be the case, not only a good cause, but the best among causes, looked to the most eternal of paradigms. For by how much the perceiver is more divine, by so much the more elevated is the object of perception. For the same thing will not be surveyed by the better and the less excellent nature. Yeah, I mean, that also accords with the idea that the demiurge contains in himself Phanes. He reflects the intelligible paradigm intellectually in himself, and that's how he knows it. So he looks beyond himself, yes, but he also is looking to him. He's reflecting on himself. And so there has to be a correlation between the percipient and the perceived. Plato, therefore, indicating these things, and through these latently assisting the position that the paradigm of the universe does not rank among the multitude of eternal natures, but is the most eternal of all of them, and primarily eternal, calls the world indeed most beautiful, but the demiurge most excellent. For that which is most beautiful was generated according to the most divine paradigm, and that which is most excellent necessarily looks to that which is supreme. For if that which is most beautiful was not derived from the first paradigm, this first paradigm will either be the paradigm of nothing or of something less excellent. Okay, so if the world is most beautiful, it has to have the best paradigm, because then any hypothetically better paradigm would be the paradigm of nothing or of something inferior to the world. But it is not lawful for superior natures to make that which is less excellent in secondary natures. I feel like it should say less excellent than secondary natures. But and unless that which is best looked to that which is first, either it will not make that which is most beautiful, or not looking to that which is first, it will make it. How likewise will that which is the first paradigm rank as a paradigm unless that which is best intellectually perceives it? And how can that which is intelligible to a less excellent nature be incomprehensible through transcendency by that which is more excellent? Hence, it is necessary that what is most beautiful should have been generated according to that which is most divine, and that which is most excellent should look to that which is most eternal. Farther still, it is necessary that what is most beautiful should be fabricated by that which is best. For of what is that which is best the cause, and less of that which is most beautiful of generated natures. For if it is not the cause of the most beautiful effect, it is the cause of something less excellent. If, therefore, that which is best is the cause of that which is less excellent, that which is not best will be entirely the cause of that which is most beautiful, and thus the order of things will be radically subverted. I believe he was doing the opposite of the argument he made before. So I kind of want to make sure that that is what happened. Okay. So, yeah, if the world is the most beautiful, then it needs to have been made from the best paradigm. If, therefore, that which is best is the cause of that which is less excellent, and then on the other hand, if the best paradigm, yeah, he did flip it around. So if the best paradigm doesn't cause the best possible world and the most beautiful possible world, it's the cause of that which is less excellent, then that which is not best will be entirely the cause of that which is most beautiful, and thus the order of things will be radically subverted. It must be admitted, therefore, that these three things are, as it is said, demonstrated by geometrical necessities, and through these we are reminded after what manner names are assumed by Plato. Porphyry, however, adds that if the demiurge is most excellent, it follows that he looks to an eternal nature, or that he will not fabricate what is beautiful. In the next place, it is necessary that he who fabricates what is truly beautiful should look to that which is eternal, or he will not make what is beautiful as the best of fabricators, but he will make it casually. Hence also, Plato asserts that the fabricators of mortal natures are daimons, and if indeed they are simply most excellent, nothing will prevent the artificers and framers of mortal natures from being likewise most excellent, and on this account the fabricators of beautiful images. Such, therefore, are the observations of Porphyry. We may easily, however, learn that it is rightly said that the world is most beautiful and the demiurge the best of causes. In the first place, indeed, the beauty of the heavens, the order of the periods, the measures of the seasons, the harmony of the elements, and the analogy which pervades through all things demonstrate to those who are not entirely blind that the universe is most beautiful. In the next place, does not the order of the invisible powers it contains, according to which the parts of the world are connected, and the gift of the intellectual essence, evince that it is the most beautiful of generated natures? For there are in it the harmonious choir of souls, the participation of intellect, the supply of a divine life, the progression of ineffable deity, and the number of henads or unities from which the whole becomes full of beauty. Since also the partial soul, which is assimilated to the universe, becoming elegantly adorned, exhibits in herself an admirable beauty, how is it possible that the universe should not possess beauty in a still greater degree, being the whole soul, or having rather the whole soul? Hence theologists, conjoining Aphrodite with Hephaestus, say that he thus fabricated the universe. And again, from Hephaestus and Aglaia, they generate Eucleia and Eusthenia, Eupheme, and Philophrosune, all right, who render the corporeal form nature decorated with beauty. Are those muses? I think so, right?
They're not the normal names, but Aglaia is splendor.
Okay, so these are not muses. What class of deities? One of the three charities or charities, goddess of beauty, splendor, glory, and adornment, wife of Hephaestus. Okay, so she's the wife of Hephaestus. She's at a higher level. She's not just a. Although, are the muses technically gods or no?
I think so. They're daughters of Zeus. Not that that guarantees deity.
Yeah. Well, they are, according to Google AI. So we'll just go with that. And then these others, Euclea, was the female personification of glory and good repute. Her sisters, Eupheme, Euthenia, Philophrosine, Euclea was likely regarded as a member of the younger charities. Okay, Aglaia was like one of the three elder charities, and then this the daughters here are the younger charities. According to Plutarch, Euclea was also used as an epithet rather of Artemis. According to an Orphic Rhapsody fragment, Euclea's parents were Hephaestus and Aglaia. Alternatively, Plutarch stated that Euclea was sometimes considered a separate goddess and the daughter of Heracles in Myrto, and as she died a virgin, she came to be venerated as a goddess. Kind of want to read the rest of this mythology here. In Greek vase paintings, particularly from 5th century Athens, Euclea is frequently shown among the attendants of Aphrodite, where she represents the good repute of a chaste bride, or is performing stereotypically feminine tasks. She was also referred by ancient Greek author Bacchylides as garland loving. The cult of Euclea was worshipped in Locris and Boeotia. Plutarch states that all cities in these areas had an image and altar of her, and this is where brides and grooms would perform a sacrifice. At Thebes, her statue was created by Scopas. In Athens, a temple was dedicated to Artemis Eucleia. Artemis Eucleia, and once again, Eucleia is an epithet of Artemis, in honor of those who fought at the Battle of Marathon, which is referenced by Greek author Plutarch and Roman geographer Pausanias. It is likely that Eucleia was worshipped together with Eunomia at Athens, as they were served by one priest. And Eunomia was a minor but important goddess of law and legislation, daughter of Timaeus and Zeus, law and Zeus. Okay. In Paros and Epiros, military generals offered dedications to Eucleia along with Aphrodite, Zeus, Hermes, and Artemis. There was a sanctuary dedicated to Eucleia at Aigai, the ancient capital of Macedonia. The sanctuary consisted of a 4th century Doric temple, a small Hellenistic era temple, and 2 stoas. At least 2 statue bases were votive offerings by Eurydice, paternal grandmother of Alexander the Great. It has been suggested that these offerings were made to commemorate Philip II's victory at Gerona. Possible there was a statue of Eucleia in the sanctuary. All right, so sort of getting a feel for who she was specifically. Let me see the charities in general. So in Greek mythology, the charities, charites, or graces. So the graces are the same as the charities, were 3 or more goddesses of charm, beauty, nature, human creativity, goodwill, and fertility. Hesiod names 3: Aglaia, Euphrosyne, joy, and Thalia, blooming. Maybe the association with the Muses, don't the 3 graces somehow lead the creation of the Muses or generation of the
They're
Muses?
they're usually depicted with the muses, like following Apollo,
Right.
dancing together.
Yeah, it's like Apollo and then the 3 graces and then the 12 Muses. How many Muses
Nine.
are there? 9? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Brian. 9 Muses. 12, I guess, including the graces.
Yeah.
All right.
Or more, because it seems like there's different numbers of graces depending on who you reference.
Well, there's elder and younger graces, like we're seeing here that Eucleia is included sometimes, but then the main 3 are Aglaia, that is Hephaestus's wife, Euphrosyne, joy, and Thalia, blooming. Okay, let's get back to the text. And again, from Vulcan and Aglaia, they generate Eucleia and Eusthenia, Eupheme, and Philophrosune, who render the corporeal form nature decorated with beauty. Okay. Neither, therefore, did those who revile the demiurge dare to say that the world is not most beautiful, but on the contrary, they say that through the beauty of it, souls are allured and ensnared. So he's referring to Gnostics and similar characters, including maybe some Middle Platonists even, who uh, degrade the role of the demiurge, and they don't say that the world is not beautiful. They admit that it is, but that beauty traps souls here when they would be better off not being trapped. Okay. So this seems like a good stopping point, but how are we to admit that the demiurge is the best of eternal natures? Um, well, I thought the paradigm that he looked to would be the best of eternal natures, right? Not the demiurge himself. But okay, we'll pick up here next time. I think I'm going to read about the muses and charities real quick. We really need to do some kind of study of Greek mythology. I don't know of any, what's the best book? Are you aware of any one book that's comprehensively outlining Greek mythology in an organized way?
I mean, we could always do Hesiod, but for like a good introduction, there's Edith Hamilton's mythology. It's pretty
Yeah,
basic.
I've read that.
It's
It's just story. It's like a limited number of stories. It doesn't cover all the gods and goddesses. Obviously, like mythology is hard to capture in one place, and Hesiod is really hard to follow because it's name after name. We could go through Hesiod and just go through the Wikipedia article and every name he mentions. I mean, that would be one way of going about it. But
yeah, because it's not terribly long.
yeah, true,
Theogony.
true. Yeah, we probably will do that. In fact, maybe we'll do that at the outset of the next reading group. Um, I was already planning on doing like Pythagorean source book and some other preliminaries before like restarting the curriculum for itself. Um, but yeah, maybe starting with the mythology is the way to go. Okay, thanks guys for participating today. We will pick this back up next week. Take care.
Take care.